Let me start with a test, a question, and if you provide the correct answer, your rating, I believe, deserves to be at least 1300 FIDE, and definitely you're not a beginner. Now, the question is, what these four positions have in common? You should pause the video and think about it. The key element of positional assessment that characterizes these positions is, well, you probably got it, space advantage. In all of those positions, black is seriously suffering because of lacking space. And those positions and some more we are going to discuss in this video. How do we recognize the situation when one has less space? Let's look at the position number 1. Pay attention to the position of the white's pawns. They are extremely advanced, reaching deep into the black's camp. One of those is even standing on the 6th rank. You may spot that it is blocking the e7 pawn of black, which is blocking the black's bishop and black's king, and making them less active. Practically both of black's pieces are unhappy because of our pawn's business on their part of the board. And only because of that, black is losing here. Now the way to win as white is by activating the white's king, getting it all the way to g6 square. And after that, winning by using so-called Zugzwang. The Zugzwang is a German word we use in chess to describe a moment when someone is being forced to make a move that they don't want to, but they have nothing else at their disposal. So let's see how that may look. So we have king e2, we have king d8, king e3, king c7, king e4, king c8, king f5, king d8, and then king g6, after which black may be thinking that after king e8 they did everything well, they're gonna survive because there is no entrance for white's king. And there you find a Zugzwang element where white just plays something that passes the move and then black is in trouble. I decided to go for bishop c1, doesn't matter where you go with the bishop, it's important just not to give it for free. And then pass the move. Black is now in trouble because the only legal move is moving the king to d8, after which we just enter f7 and the bishop is going to be lost. The bishop, with two pawns in front of it, two own pawns, is not able to escape. But look at the fact for a moment of how black stands with the space on that side of the board. They didn't move those two pawns, the bishop standing behind cannot move because of them, and that's underlining the importance of space in order to activate the pieces. Can we say the same for the position number 2? Are white's pawns stopping black from getting active? The main problem of black is communication between the defenders, the king and the bishop, with the weakest units in their army, which are the pawns obviously. In other words, the pieces of black are not going to be able to help when the pawns get under fire. The black king is going nowhere, but what about the bishop? Is it able to help? Well, it's not able to reach the other side of the board and successfully defend the pawn on a4 if white goes after it. So in case white goes with bishop e2, bishop f7, bishop d1, bishop e8, you see the bishop is not reaching the a4 because of their own pawn on c6 blocking its way. And that's why we say that because of the space disadvantage, one cannot coordinate pieces well, communicate well with the pieces, in other words. The pieces are being blocked everywhere. They cannot really establish good connection between two parts of the board. I'd like to do an experiment removing from the board those two pawns that were the cause of black losing communication between two flanks. Here is what we get. Now, if white attacks one pawn with bishop e2, it gets easily defended by bishop f7, and then the other pawn, it gets defended by bishop e8. And then black is holding everything. Although the pawns are standing on the light squares, which is not great when you have light square bishops, still black is able to hold both of these pawns and survive this endgame. Now moving to the position number 3. We can confirm that here too white's pawns are far more advanced than black's, and along with that important element, there are also some serious weaknesses in black's camp. There are 3 pawn weaknesses in their structure, out of which 2 pawns can be immediately put under pressure by white's artillery. And it's hard to decide playing as white which one to, well, go for. Those 2 are the pawns on a6 and h6. Now, simply by doubling the rooks on the one of those 2 files, white is securing to win whichever pawn they want. Black would like to do the same kind of work, doubling and defending, but it won't be possible for them because it is not as easy as it is for white to double the rooks. Simply black has no extra rank to just lift one rook and on the next move bring the other immediately behind it without making an extra move with their king first, which loses time and it gets too late and the pawn is lost. So for example, rook h2, king d7 in order to connect the rooks, rook h to a2, and the pawn on a6 is following on the next move. Now before we move to the last of those 4 positions, I'd like to do another experiment, this time by moving everything one rank lower into the white's camp. And we'd like to see how that looks and how it affects the pieces and the overall prospects. This is the situation that we may reach. Now, if white tries the same thing, black is able to just pull one of the rooks to the back rank and then double wherever it is needed to defend the attacked pawn, thus keeping everything safe. So for example, we go rook a2 the same way as before, rook h8, rook h to a1, and rook h to a8. Now, even though black still has those 2 backwards pawns on a5 and h5, the game should end in a draw thanks to the fact that black has enough space to coordinate pieces without any problem. So here again, space helps a lot in organizing a defense, similarly as in the attacking action of white in the previous case. Moving to position number 4. Well, this one shows how white enjoys the situation on the queen side. Having doubled rooks on the c-file, the d2 knight waiting to jump to c4, then it would be inflicting pressure on the weak d6 pawn once white captures there, of course. On the other side, black cannot double their rooks on the same c-file, because clearly there is no space. Again, thanks to the white's pawns being advanced on that side of the board. Also, the other black's pieces are not able to join the action easily, because again, there is no free square to easily move to. Their own pawns are often blocking their way as well. Those pawns can't move forward because of our own pawns on d5 and e4 in this case. So they'd like to do something, freeing up pieces. They'd like to get some space by moving their pawns, but unfortunately white's pawns are standing in front into the black's camp. Now, if black starts to think of pushing their own pawns on the side where they have no space or they're lacking space, like the queen side here, in order to regain some space, in majority of cases they would only create more weaknesses in their own camp. So let's play something irrelevant like king h1 to make it possible for black to make a move, which is, let's say, b6. This is the only pawn move they can make without losing immediately. Taking, and knight c4, and that means that pawn on b6 attacked twice, d6 attacked by the knight, one of those pawns is going to fall unless I'm blind. Well, those are the consequences of playing on the wrong side of the board. You're practically just making easier for the opponent. Moving on, this position is from one of my games played a long time ago. I created a video of it and feel free to take a look later. This situation also shows how space advantage effects fight for the open files. In this case, there are still no open files, but an option for white available to open the A or the G file whenever they want to. However, it is highly recommended to first bring the heavy pieces on that file before it gets open, taking advantage of the fact that we have more space there. Here, white already started this process by lifting the rook to the g3, after which the other one is coming to g1, and then maybe the queen can join to g2, thus tripling the heavy pieces. Then whatever happens to be standing on their way on the g file is going to be in danger of getting captured, since the same idea cannot be conducted by black. They have only 2 squares on the same file to manipulate with. A clear example of how space advantage helps in building a greater and greater activity of pieces, and finally a crushing attack. On the other side, we could see how space disadvantage results in disability of pieces to defend each other, coordinate well, and consequently in overall decreased activity of pieces, but also in their ability to survive the attack. Now, in case you're interested in doing a homework, I'd suggest you to play these 5 positions against someone or a computer engine, and thus check your skills in exploiting space advantage. In case you enjoyed the video, feel free to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It would be highly appreciated.